彼方へ希望の帆かけて。
To me, Ornoco Flow is a very important song because it introduced my music to the world as such. Because I felt when the listener heard Ornoco Flow, they enjoyed the song, and a lot of people didn't know who I was, if it was a band performing the song, the singer.
The vocals that I really wanted to hear more of that beautiful, beautiful voice. First album immediately sold 13 million records, and sold a lot more by now. But what it did is people went, oh, that's a way to sell records. So the word Enya-esque kept being used. And people would ring me as the head of a record company and said, well, I've got a very Enya-esque record. And I said, I don't care, I've got Enya. I don't need an Enya-esque record.
エンヤはアイルランド出身のアーティスト。本名はエンヤニ・ブレナン。ケルトを題材にしたデビュー作で注目を集め、オリノコフローで世界的な名声を得る。
I was brought up in the northwest of Ireland, and it's a very rural area, and there's a lot of mountains, and it's right on the Atlantic Sea. So the inspiration when I was growing up was to nature, and I felt it was very inspiring because it changed per second. When you looked out to the sea, to the sky, to the stars, the colour of the mountains, the heather, it had a very strong hold on me that it was always there. You know, the area I was brought up in, there was a lot of Irish traditional music. So I have a great love of traditional Irish music, and that combined with my love of classical music, they work so well.
エンヤが生まれたのはアイルランド北西部に位置するドニゴール州。海を渡る風がどこまでも吹きすさぶ荒涼とした大地が広がる。ここはケルト人の住む土地。ケルトとは古代ヨーロッパ大陸で発祥した文化。ケルトの人々はゲール語と呼ばれる独自の言語を話し、自然や生命について独特の世界観を持っている。ドニゴール州の海沿いにあるグイドーと呼ばれる地域にエンヤの聖火はある。レオズ・タバーン。彼女の両親は 1960年代の終わり頃からこの地でパブを営んでいた。父は元バンドマン、母も元音楽教師というブレナン家。9人兄弟の三女としてエンヤはここで子供時代を過ごした。バンドを辞めパブを開いた父のレオさんは店のハウスミュージシャンとして毎晩ステージで演奏していた。兄弟たちも店を手伝いながら父と一緒に歌ったり演奏したりしていたという。エンヤを生んだステージでは今も定期的にライブ演奏が行われている。
My driving force for working on music is my love of music. I have been brought up loving music because of both my parents were musical, and I was on stage at 3.5 years of age, and it was a performance in a play where they had the characters, fairy tale characters, come on stage, and the Snow Queen came on stage, and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and then Little Red Riding Hood came on stage, and that was me. And I spoke to the audience and I sung a song, and I felt very, very at home on stage. So I had this love of music and knew that this was something that I would definitely be involved in my future.
自宅のパブで歌いながらエンヤは姉妹と共に近くの教会へ通い聖歌隊のメンバーとしても歌っていた。姉妹が歌うとハーモニーには家族ならではの自然な一体感が生まれたという。こうした環境の中でエンヤは音楽への強い思いを育んでいった。
And then at 4 years of age, I started my piano studies, and I was one of the children that would sit every day and do my studies and would learn more and more. But on writing music, it was much later on for me. It was to do with my classical piano studies. I was playing the classical pieces, and then I started to improvise. And the first piece that I ever wrote, it was an instrumental. It was a piano melody. And I just kind of went with every piece that I wrote. I didn't put any sort of great expectations on what I was writing, that it has to be a song, has to be a slow song, has to be an up-tempo. I felt, to me, it was the music was taking me on a journey, and I was quite fascinated to see what was next for me. So in that regard, I went from instrumental music, and then eventually I went to writing songs.
音楽に囲まれていたブレナン家からは実はエンヤの他にもう一組のアーティストが生まれている。ブレナン家の兄弟3人とその叔父2人からなるクラナド。1982年にイギリスのテレビドラマで使われた彼らの曲「ハリーズ・ゲーム」のテーマはゲール語の歌にもかかわらず大ヒットとなった。ファミリーバンドであるクラナドにはエンヤも一時在籍していた。クラナドのリードボーカルは9人兄弟の長女モイヤ・ブレナン。 現在ソロとしても活動し、ケルト音楽のファーストレディーと呼ばれるほどの存在となっている。クラナドのデビューは1973年。彼らはケルト音楽をベースに現代的なアレンジと美しいハーモニーを加え、オリジナルな音楽を生み出していった。3枚目のアルバムからクラナドのプロデューサー兼マネージャーになったのはニッキー・ライアン。この人物がエンヤの音楽人生に大きく関わっていく。
I had finished school and my studies classical music, and I had intended to go on to college to study further classical music, but I was approached by the manager of Clannad at the time, Nicky Ryan. He wanted to introduce the piano and keyboards for the first time in the group and another vocal harmony. So he asked me to join with them.
ニッキーの誘いでエンヤはクラナドの2枚のアルバム制作に参加。トラッドソングに現代的な要素を組み合わせる手法をエンヤはクラナド時代に学んだという。クラナドとエンヤが受け継いだケルト音楽の心とは何なのか。エンヤに聞いてみた。
The strong element of Irish traditional music has to be of the sense of melancholy. It's very much there, and it's to do with, if you listen to Irish traditional music, there's a lot of minor keys that the songs are written in, even up-tempo songs. They're all in minor key, and it's got the sense of melancholy, not sad, passionate sort of feel to it. And I love combining then with the love of the classical music.
エンヤは2年ほどクラナドに参加し、その後ソロ活動に入る。
When I was with the band Clannad, I was not writing any music, and I enjoyed the 2 years of the experience of being on stage and performing. It was so wonderful, but I felt that at that stage, I felt that I had a yearning to write music. Then it was time for me to leave and to write my music.
クラナドのプロデューサーだったニッキー・ライアンには詩を書くローマという妻がいた。ニッキーはエンヤの曲作りのためにスタジオを提供し、妻のローマと共にエンヤを支えた。
We talked a lot about music, and he talked about this idea he had to take a voice and use it as an instrument to create a wall of vocal sound. I was really fascinated by this, and he knew my love of music and of harmony, and this is something that when I left the band, that this is the first thing that we started to work on the idea.
ニッキー・ローマと力を合わせ作り上げたデビューアルバム「エンヤ」は ケルトを題材にした BBC のドキュメンタリーのために書かれたものだった。このアルバムはアイルランドで2位となる大ヒット。このアルバムを高く評価した人物がいた。ロブ・ディキンズ、当時のワーナーミュージック UK の会長である。彼はアーティストの才能を見出す手腕に優れたことで知られていた。ロブが当時のことを語ってくれた。
When I first heard Enya, it was on a BBC CD called The Celts. A friend of mine said, "You like this kind of music? You know, this is really good." So I listened to it. I fell in love with it. I listened to it every single night. And a few weeks later, I was travelling to Dublin to go to the Irish Music Awards. So in the afternoon, I berated my head of the record company in Ireland and say, "We've signed all these acts, but why have you not found something as beautiful as this Enya record?" And he said, "Oh, you like that?" I said, "I love it." Anyway, we roll forward, we go to the event, and he says to me, he says, "You know the Enya that you loved?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "That's her with her managers standing at the door." I said, "Find out why she's standing at the door." So he goes over and he comes back. He said, "Well, they were on the EMI BBC table, and there's no seats, so they're leaving." So I said, "No, they're not. They're going to come and sit with us." So kind of tipped the waiter to bring a few more chairs, and they came and sat with us, and I was sort of chatting with them, and they couldn't believe that I knew every track in detail on this first record. And I was saying, "You have such a wonderful voice," and she said, "Well, it's really my sister's the singer, but, I'm a keyboard player, and that's what I want to do." And I said, no, you should be a singer.
この出会いからロブは直ちにエンヤと契約。彼女のボーカルを生かした曲を入れることを条件にアルバム作りを依頼した。
So it starts with the family, it starts with Clannad. And Enya, being out of Clannad, took some of the things she'd learned. I mean, the multiple vocals started with Clannad. Took some of, and really, by being a solo artist, had to look for other inspiration, because it wasn't just there. When you're in a band or when you're in a family, a lot of things you don't have to think about because someone else is thinking about. So I think when she sort of transferred and her family became Nicky and Roma Ryan, so you actually had someone who loved words and you had someone who loved technology and sounds, and then you had your own musical ability. And I think I don't think Enya would sound the same without Nicky Ryan. The words would clearly not be the same.
It was very different, the first melody I wrote. And I have to say, when I performed it to Nicky and to Roma, that they were very encouraging. They knew it was very different. And I felt that that was important to me, that to have written my first piece and to have someone to believe in the music from the beginning, and they have continued to encourage me in that regard.
こうしてアルバム「ウォーターマーク」の制作が始まった。アルバム「ウォーターマーク」はロンドンのオリノコスタジオでレコーディングとミキシングが行われた。
They made the record in their own studio, but this was an analog record, and she layers her voice many, many times. So there was a lot of tape hiss. So I said, "You have to remake this digitally." So, the record is beautiful. I love it. but you've got to go to a digital studio. And we had a deal with a studio called Orinoco in London. And so we brought them into Orinoco with a British engineer who understood the whole way the digital worked, and basically remade the record.
オリノコフローの誕生には興味深いエピソードがある。ニッキー・ライアンとロブ・ディキンズの間で交わされたある会話が元になったというものだ。
So they said, fine, fine, but you're not going to expect singles. And I said, no, I'm not expecting singles. I've heard your music. It's not singles. It's not what's in the charts. And we signed the deal. Every time I heard from Nicky Ryan, her manager, the conversation would end, and I hope you don't expect a single. And I went, no, I didn't expect a single. After about the 5th time of this, it became like a standing joke that he would say, and there's no singles, I go down to hear the finished record. It's gorgeous, beautiful. No tape hiss, but the music, her voice, everything was so beautiful. And as I left the studio, I kind of turned back and looked at Nicky and Enya, and I said, just one thing. And they went, oh, what's that? I said, where's the single? Just as a joke. Anyway, I left. About 10 days later, I get this phone call from Nicky, and he said, I think we've got the single. And I said, what single? The single you asked for. I said, I was joking. And he said, well, I think we've got it. And so he came in and he played me Orinoco Flow, which was completely as a result of a joke, of me just joking about a single. I really didn't ever expect it.
ジョークから生まれ、世界中に知れ渡るほどの大ヒットとなったオリノコフロー。エンヤたちはどうやってこの曲を書いたのか。
Orinoco Flow was the last song written for Watermark, and at the time I felt that there was a slight imbalance, with the songs. It was there was a pace. We needed an up-tempo song as such, because we had quite emotional, slow songs, classical pieces like Cursus and Proficio in Latin, and therefore when we started working Orinoco Flow, it was very uplifting, very different feel to the song. The first part of the song would have been to do with the pizzicato sound on the keyboard. It's a particular sound, and it was very uplifting, and it was very strong, and it kind of guided then the rest of the arrangement of the music, the rolling of the piano, the timps then to join. An idea that Nicky had when we were looking for this rhythmic song, he felt, he thought pizzicato, that's, a sound that I love to write, and because of my classical sort of training. And he had said, why don't you try, a song with, combining this pizzicato sound with it. So it was a little bit of trial and error, to try to see what would inspire a song, a melody. And that's really what evolved with Orinoco Flow.
南米の川、オリノコが登場する歌詞はどうやってできていったのか。
And Roma, who wrote the lyrics, felt that this had to be something exciting. Let this be a journey. Let it be like when you were a child, when you opened, a map, you would look at all these places and you imagined all these places. What were they like? And so this was a journey, but it was a journey. It could be, if it was possible, a physical journey, but it was more of an imaginary journey to get to all these wonderful places around the world. So this is what the song was about, to inspire you, the freedom to travel anywhere in the world.
ところで、オリノコフローには歌詞にロブ・ディキンズの名前が歌い込まれている。
Orinoco was the studios, and their travel, and then I was kind of saying, and we need to do this, and we need to do this. So I was kind of captain of the ship. So they put We Can Steer, We Can Near with Rob Dickens at the wheel. I had no idea I was in the record. I swear I had no idea. Until we were doing the lyrics for the inside sleeve. And my product manager said, oh, so you're in the lyrics? I said, what do you mean I'm in the lyrics? And she showed me the lyrics, and I said, oh, we have to change this, we have to change this. And she said, we're at the presses. There's no way we can change this. And I said, oh, God, I'm in the lyrics. It's awful. You know, I really wasn't that happy about it. When it went to #1, I kind of smiled that I was in the lyrics.
1980年代はニューエイジミュージックが台頭してきた時代。ドリーミーな円屋の音楽も気分を高めたり逆に沈めたりと心に大きく作用するためニューエイジ音楽として捉えられることも多い。
No, when New Age, in fact, the Atlantic Records put out The Celts, the first album, the BBC album. They put that album out with a New Age label. It was Atlantic New Age. And I went crazy and I said, you've got to stop this. This is what you're doing is you're looking at a market that is this big, that you can be very big within, but it's still only this big. And her market is the world, you know, and you mustn't limit it. And that's why I wanted to get very visual with the things, because mostly the videos for New Age things were like rippling water or fields of corn in the wind, you know. And I wanted her to be the heroine of a story. So she's like the heroine of a medieval story, or she's the heroine of where she helps children, and you know, there's a whole thing where she actually has this interaction with these worlds we created. At the same time, I kept seeing her name in typography, and thought, Enya, it looks wrong in Times New Roman, in any of the, you know, Helvetica, all the fonts look wrong. So I had a graphic designer called Lawrence Whitmore who came and he designed, I showed him the sleeve and I said, I want lettering to actually match the sleeve. So he came up with what the now famous EMYA that you see all the time now.
こうして名門レーベルワーナーの支えも受けながらエンヤは世界の歌姫として羽ばたいていった。そしてエンヤのふるさとドニゴールではエンヤを生んだステージからケルトの伝統を受け継ぐ新しい音楽がまた生まれようとしている。ケルトの魂とクラシックの装い、そして美しい歌声が出会い生まれた。世界に向け船出するディーバのアンセム。エンヤ、オリノコフロー。